know that I'm not like other girls. I don't mean that in like a pick-me kind of way though. I mean that there is literally a 12-inch metal rod in my ribcage to prevent it from collapsing. See, I've been an overachiever my whole life. So naturally, when doctors told me halfway through my junior year that my ribcage was not like other ribcages, my ribcage apparently took that as a challenge. Allow me to explain. The Haller index is what professionals use to diagnose pectus excavatum, a condition which is Latin for hollowed chest. It's pretty simple. Take the maximum diameter from the left to right of the ribcage and divide it by the minimum diameter from the front to back of the ribcage, and you get a nice number. The larger the number, the more severe the condition is. The Haller index of an average chest is 2.5. The Haller index of a chest with severe pectus excavatum is 3.25. The Haller index of my chest is 7.1. Finding out that my ribcage was exceedingly concave meant a lot of things. It meant accruing countless absences from school in exchange for trips to the hospital, which in turn meant fighting a borderline grade in PE for all of second semester. It meant finding out that people on the pectus excavatum subreddit enjoy competing to see who can hold the most Cheerios in their ribcage index. But more than anything, it meant feeling lost and confused and anxious and misunderstood. Often. All the time. The drive to Lurie Children's Hospital is a tedious one, especially with rush hour traffic. Luckily, the billboards along the way contain a lot of profound truths that help pass the time, like stop hate, or eternal damnation awaits, repent and seek Jesus immediately, or hairline reconstruction surgery for attractive men in their prime, or Shen Yun is in town again. Every time I had an appointment, I would, without fail, take a low-quality photo of the waiting room I was in, pair it with my favorite 15 seconds of the song Waiting Room by Phoebe Bridgers, and post it to my close friend's story on Instagram. Which, now that I'm saying it out loud, sounds a lot more pathetic than I initially realized, but it was my way of claiming just a sliver of autonomy over a series of months where my life felt wildly out of my control. On the morning of the operation, I had 3 bottles of apple juice for breakfast. I had to take a shower with an antiseptic soap that, oddly enough, had the exact same color and consistency as Pepto-Bismol. If that wasn't enough, once I checked in, I had to wipe my entire body down with wipes that turned me neon orange, like in case the doctor can't see where my skin is or something like that. The last thing I remember before the anesthesia knocked me out was hearing the operating room nurse praise me for being cool as a cucumber. And in retrospect, the most disorienting thing about the whole experience was having to wonder why cool as a cucumber is even a widely accepted phrase. I mean, they're not literally cool, they're firmly room temperature unless you put them in the fridge. And they're not figuratively cool either. They're like 95% water and 5% disappointment. There is nothing cool about a pickle that never reached its full potential. But I guess when a nurse calls you cool as you're quite literally in the lowest point of your life, you can set aside your opinions on cucumbers. Like any person going under anesthesia for the first time, I was terrified that when I woke up, I would just start revealing my deepest, darkest secrets to the world. I don't know what I thought was going to happen. Like I was going to sit straight up after being shot chock full of opioids and just start rattling on about my life. What actually happened, though, was after being shot chock full of opioids, I could not, in fact, sit up at all. I woke up in the most intense pain I'd ever felt. I started to cry because it hurt so badly, and the crying just made it hurt even worse. As expected, recovery was excruciatingly, painfully, unbearably slow. I had to invent new ways to get out of bed. Sneezing became my worst enemy, and I couldn't even go up and down the stairs of my own house without feeling excessively winded. So the next epoch of my life was filled with watching documentaries about axolotls, reading conspiracy theories on Reddit, and having enough Gatorade to confidently say that the best Gatorade flavor is Glacier Cherry. On top of all of that, my inability to immediately jump back into my high-octane lifestyle left me asking myself questions that I never expected to ask at just 17 years old. Like, why is healthcare so expensive? What if at the end of this, I didn't feel any better? Why, of all people, was this happening to me? In essence, I felt trapped. Trapped inside my body, inside my house, inside my life, painfully aware that there was nowhere I could go and nothing I could do except wait. Wait for it to get better. And as a person who's impatient to a fault, the knowledge that there was absolutely nothing I could do about freeing myself from my own confinement was the hardest part. See, I've been busy my whole life, which sounds a little miserable, and sometimes it is, but when I was constantly rushing between classes and rehearsals and meetings and auditions, scribbling to finish my physics homework in a 10-minute window of my lunch period, losing sleep as I fought to be the best at everything I did, I wasn't left with a lot of time for much else. That when my life was brought to a screeching halt, the sudden dearth of everything I was used to forced me to find new appreciation for the things I had left. When I couldn't text my friends or hang out with them, their supportive messages wishing me good luck on my recovery, the ones to which I previously would have just said thanks and forgotten about, became a lot more meaningful. When I couldn't play my instrument, even listening to music which I previously just used as a way to fill the silence between more important things, became something that I always slowed down to enjoy. When the hectic life that I was used to replaced itself with a dull, mindless routine where the most important thing was thinking about when I would get my next dose of painkillers, even simple things like going to the grocery store or catching a new episode of a mediocre crime show that really should have been canceled 2 seasons ago, became the things that I most looked forward to. I'd always tried really hard to manufacture this superficial idea of worth in my life. The formula was simple. I would work harder than everyone else, sleep less than everyone else, and at the end of it, succeed more than everyone else. To me, that success would be worth it. And for the most part, it worked. But when all of that was taken away, I was forced to realize that the path to where I wanted to go wasn't about a formula, and there was no path at all. There was nothing as gratifying as when I finally slowed down, stopped thinking about where I was going, started thinking about where I was, and opened my eyes to the world around me. The worth that I had spent my entire life searching for, everything that I could ever possibly need, had always been right in front of me. Dormant and difficult to recognize, sure, but it was always, is always there. All of that is to say, the whole experience wasn't actually all horrible. I'm now 0.2% cyborg. I have a golden ticket to get through airport security really fast, and I can even tell people I've been on fentanyl, which without context is a really horrible thing to tell people. I'm like a real-life Iron Man, except it's like iron, stainless steel, man, woman. It's close enough, I guess. Once I've passed the 3-month mark, I've pretty much been back to normal, with the exception of restrictions on no contact sports and no sex. And I don't know if my doctors realize this, but like, I'm 17 years old and in the monologue show, like, come on. What I'm trying to say is that it's really easy to think that the world is ending. But that's never true. The truth is, it's just beginning. In the midst of all the chaos, it's also easy to think that the world is devoid of beauty. But that isn't true either. The truth is, sometimes beauty finds you the minute you wake up off the anesthesia, when you're in the worst pain of your life, yet all you really want to do is text your friends and tell them how much you love them. Sometimes beauty finds you in the backseat of a Subaru Crosstrek as you're suffering from an allergic reaction to surgical glue and en route to the emergency room, and out the window is the most gorgeous sunset that you've ever seen. Of course, the sunset is partially obstructed by a billboard that reads, "Shen Yun is still in town." But funnily Ironically enough, there's something beautiful about that, too. What I'm trying to say is that beauty finds you in waiting rooms, in hospital beds. It finds you in grocery stores and Glacier Cherry Gatorade. You can chase beauty all you want and you'll probably come up empty-handed. But if you sit and you wait, it will always find you. Of course, I hope it never takes an intensive medical procedure for me to come to those realizations again. But if it does, then it's comforting to know that my kidneys, well, they aren't looking so hot either.